Hey, sorry about there being a total lack of update. I've been really kind of busy the past couple of days. Um, so this one's going to be extra long. It's going to be taking note. It's going to be covering not only yesterday, but the day before that as well. Both of which were pretty busy. Um, so Saturday morning, well, it was Saturday. Saturday, no, yeah, no, Sunday morning. Okay, sorry, got lost track of my days. Um, Sunday morning, I didn't really do much, um, but I did get invited to go to this pool with one of the other exchange students. He's from Mexico, and so I said yeah because hey, you guys are friends, and so we went to this place in Luxembourg that apparently got some award in 2010 for like the most innovative water park in Europe or something cool like that. So it was pretty awesome. There were um, four different pools. There was one deep one really deep one, like I couldn't even touch the bottom deep. There's one really deep one with half of it was cut off so that people could swim laps, and the other half had diving boards. One was really tall and really scary to go off of, and the other one was smaller. And so that was one pool. And the next pool was about waist depth all the way along, and I don't really understand that pool, but it was there. I think it was for younger kids who couldn't handle the deep pool. And then there was a kiddie pool that had like little fountains and things that was pretty sweet. And then there was a wave pool. Oh, I'm sorry, there was five pools. There was also a pool that went outside, and it had a little bit of a branch inside. It only had a little bit inside, but there was this little branch where there were like seats all along it, and it got bubbles sometimes. Occasionally the bubbles would start going. And so there were five pools. And then there was also two water slides. One of them was big and slow and kind of boring, and the other one was super fast, and one of those ones where it's like it's kind of over before you can really enjoy it, but oh well. And so yeah, it also had like a sauna, but it was in a different section or something like that, and I don't know, we didn't go there. But that was what we had access to. And it also had like a restaurant and bar and stuff, I don't know, up above. But it was a pretty cool place. And, so we swum for like half of it, and we spent a lot of time on the water slides, because the thing about the big slow water slides is you could go down together. Like the little, and you can go down different ways. The little one, the little faster one, you pretty much were limited to your typical, um, you know, lying down position, or you could go like face first or face first backwards. And it was actually pretty cool the way they both operated was you would stand in line, wait at the top, and instead of having somebody there who would tell you when it was okay to go, they had lights, and it was red for to go and green for it's okay to go. And I don't know if they use like motion sensors or what. I know on the little one, it had like one of those things that, like at a subway station or something, where you push through it and it like spins around, like a subway station or a museum or something like that. And I had one of those, and every time you pushed it, it turned red. And so it would turn green, and then you push through, and it turned red again. And it wouldn't turn green again until the person came out at the bottom. But so that was pretty cool. It was a really useful way that it worked. But so I did the little one for a while, but then I started going down the big one with the exchange student from Mexico, and we started doing it in different ways. Like we would go down together, then we went down together backwards, and then we would go down like lying down or something. And one of her host brothers, he's about 12, I think. Yeah, he was younger, but he liked to get in line in front of us and then insist that we go down first, and be like, oh, you can go, it's okay, I'll be able to, but he had this sneaky little smile, so you knew that we'd be like halfway down, and he would come zooming down on like his knees in some way that was going faster than us, and like ram into us. So it was really fun. We spent a lot of time on that water slide. And then for the last, like, at least for the last hour, I think, we started playing tag, which was so fun. Because, it's not so much just running around, freestyle and tagging each other. Like, I liked to be sneaky. I hid in the wave pool, especially when there are waves going on, because there are a ton of people there, and you can pretty much keep an eye on who's walking past. And then when they walk past, you just send and if you're in the deep end, they can't see your bathing suit, so they can't tell who you are. And um, after a while, that started working less and less, as people sort of started doing the same thing. Another thing I would do is wait where there was a place I could go forward 2 different ways, one around the stairs, and backward another way to where there was also a door to outside. And I did lots of waiting by doors to outside in case somebody came along. And sometimes people who weren't it would like tag together or team together. So they'd kind of group up and communicate. It's this person, it's that person. Um, that kind of worked sometimes, but the problem with that was you'd have to start being together, and the like most of the time when I got tagged was when I decided to trust people and go up to somebody and they would be like, oh, I'm not it, and I'd be like, okay. The one time people were really sneaky. The person who was it was walking with somebody who was not it, and so I thought that they were okay, because usually I didn't trust people unless they were already with somebody else. So they were already with somebody else, so I thought it was okay, and then they got me. I don't know. But anyway, so that was a lot of fun. And after that, I stayed over at Idalia, the Mexican exchange student. I stayed over at her house, and we didn't talk very much because we're so both awkward. We both like Skyped our family because it was my mom's birthday on Sunday, and her family like does only Skype on Sunday or something like that. So that was fun. I mean, we hung out a little bit, and then so then yesterday morning we were really both feeling really lazy, and we just kind of lay around for most of the morning, which was kind of funny. But then in the afternoon we took a walk around our lawn a little bit because she lives actually in our lawn and not just really close to it like me. And so we walked around, we bought some candy and just walked around. And we actually could have walked around longer because I thought my host siblings were coming to pick me up a lot sooner than they actually did. So we ended up doing a lot of waiting around at her house. But and that was actually one thing I liked about that too. The whole night over thing was that I got to see a townhouse. Like out here, we're kind of more in the country, and this house is a lot more like one you might find in America, but in the city, all the buildings are just one continuous line of buildings stuck together, and they're all really tall. So that was interesting because you'd have several rooms on one floor, but then you would go up the stairs, and there would be several rooms, and then there was a third floor that I didn't even go on. But and all the rooms were like really tall, like really tall. I don't know exactly how tall, but they were really tall, and so that was kind of interesting. And the floorboards were all so squeaky. Like I thought that in my house, not my house here, all the floorboards here, or all floors here are tile. But in my house at home, I thought we had a pretty squeaky floor. No, it's like you couldn't take a step without making some horrendous noise. And I think it wasn't as bad. In the floor below, it's not as bad as actually in the room, because in the room you've got the wooden floors and you've got a lot of bare wall because it's so tall. There's a ton of bare wall at the top and bare ceiling and stuff, and so it echoes really badly too. And so when you're actually making the noise, it just sounds like the worst sound you've ever heard in your entire life. And but when I heard people moving around upstairs, I didn't hear too much horrendous squeaking. So I think it sounded worse in the room than it actually did downstairs, and in the room below, which is kind of different than in my house. In my house, if you step on a squeaky floorboard, and the person below can hear it probably even better than me. But anyway, so that was a lot of fun. And then I was going to just make a blog post about that and make one about the rest of my day today. But I ended up hanging out with my host siblings all day. We started playing some music, we turned off like guitar chords and music and things, songs. And my brother played guitar and my sister was on drums and I sang. And we probably didn't sound very good, but it was a ton of fun. And then after that, we got some pastries and went for a drive, and we ate them out in the forest. And we mostly drove on these little dirt roads out in the woods, which were kind of terrifying. Sometimes we'd come up and there would be a huge rut or something, and we'd start going super slow, and I would literally be able to reach out and touch the ground because we were so tilted. Also, the roads were kind of sunken, and there would be ground and a little dip and then the road. But then, there'd be a huge rut, and so I'd be tilted over and be able to touch the ground. But that was a lot of fun. It was so much fun. And then after we came home, my sister and I watched X-Men in French, and about halfway through we went out and got some fries and stuff, even though my host parents weren't there. I don't know where they were. They were out all afternoon, and they didn't come in until later in the evening. But then, so we ate fries and we watched X-Men and the second X-Men, X-Men 2. And then I think today we were planning on watching the other 3. We were kind of surprised that there are 5 X-Men movies. But, so yeah, I had a great couple of days. I'm sorry for not updating you on them before. I hope this wasn't too long, and I hope I'm talking loud enough so that you can hear me. But I had a really great time. I have a friend, and I can do stuff without my host siblings, which I was so proud of. And then when we were during that, when they were picking me up, I was texting, and I was apparently cool. They were able to understand what I meant. So I feel really accomplished, to be walked around. I wasn't with either of my host siblings or anybody else's host siblings. It was just us 2 exchange students, which I was so proud of me. Bought candy. It doesn't seem like that big of a thing, but I feel really accomplished. And yeah, it's been a great couple of days.